Today, we're breaking down the January 2026 Metro Vancouver housing market using the latest data provided by the Greater Vancouver REALTORS. We're looking at why sales started the year so quietly, what rising inventory means for buyers and sellers, how the sales to active listing ratio is impacting prices, and why many buyers are still on the sidelines. So let's just jump right into it and look at sales right away. And we can see that sales were nearly 30% lower than this time last year. We recorded 1,100 sales this January. January 2025, it was about just over 1,500, 1,552. Why is the big question. What is happening with the buyers? What's going on here?
There's a lot
Everybody's
of things.
afraid. Everybody's afraid. Everyone's got anxiety about a lot of things, and they just don't know. And they want to make sure they want to make sure they should buy, that maybe the market's going down more. These are the things people think, right? And it's understandable. We have a lot of instability worldwide right now.
And how do you quell anxiety? Well, you provide certainty. And, what would give, I think the question we're looking at is what would provide buyers with certainty? And, off the top of my head, there's a couple of things I think that would provide certainty. I think something around land rights. That's the number one thing that I think has been unusual in this marketplace. I mean, we've never dealt with that before, and it's still sitting out there. And, for those people watching, a lot of you guys know that our office is in Richmond, and Richmond is ground zero, frankly, for land rights. So, of course, overall sales are down, but in Richmond especially, that market is really affected. The other thing, because I was at an event that had some developers at it. The developers are talking about how the federal government had mentioned they were going to remove GST for first-time buyers. And you know what? They're basically telling me that when buyers come into the sales center, they're looking at the numbers, the developers are offering a ton of incentives, but when the numbers get crunched, that 5% GST is just putting it out of reach for buyers. So the feds acting on that campaign promise, I think, would help a lot to get some more certainty in terms of pricing, and just it would bring buyers back.
Yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes when you have the 5% GST, and depending on the price of the new sale, we know there's exemptions for property transfer tax, but not everybody qualifies for it. So exactly. You're looking at a substantial tax bill sometimes when you're buying new. When we do look at sales, low sales isn't abnormal. We do see that. We've seen it before in January 2023, April 2020, January 2019. Like, this has happened before where we come off to a slow start. Is this a demand issue, or do you guys see this specifically as a confidence issue?
I see it as a confidence issue. I don't think that we don't have enough inventory really to have this much quiet right now. We don't. We could, inventory could build up and it becomes a worse problem. Certainly, okay, I'll preface that. In the condo market, we're seeing too much inventory, but other areas, not at all. So I do feel that people are sitting on the sidelines. They're wondering what to do. They're not sure. It's interesting because it creates a lot of pent up demand, right? So people are showing up at the open houses, right? You guys are seeing that.
We're seeing it.
But they're not making the decision. They're not making the decision.
We have talked about pent up demand, but I think the stat that I saw is that we are 38% over the 10-year average for inventory. So I do think that inventory has something to do with this, because I know that when I'm on buyer's tours, I'm not just saying, okay, well, so this is what you want. Great. We're going to spend a couple of weekends looking. We're literally taking 2 months to get through everything to see, because, there's only so much time someone has to look at real estate.
That would be an average, right, of all listings. So it wouldn't be specific to areas. So if I look between 1.5 to 2.2 million, there's not a lot on the market that any buyer would want to buy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's busy in pockets, as we know.
Right. So
multiple
if you
offers
look at,
in East
of course,
Van,
if you look
North
at
Van.
yeah, if you look at a 2-bedroom condo anywhere, there's a lot.
Yes,
there's a lot.
Exactly.
But who's buying that? That's the millennial group that's sitting on the fence, traveling to Japan.
Waiting for certainty.
Waiting for certainty, or just living their life because they don't see the need to buy in.
That's a good segue into inventory. When we do look at inventory, there is a noticeable and a sharp decline from the peak of 2025, which was in June. We had about 18,000 listings, and right now, Jen, we are 12,628. So you're right, that is a 38% decrease from the 10-year. Sorry, a 38% increase over the 10-year seasonal average, but there is that sharp decline in inventory from just a few months ago. So my question for you guys is, how long can sellers stay patient before that kind of pricing pressure increases? Like, we do think inventory is going to increase into the spring. Can they just sit there waiting for somebody to pay their price? Do they have to make those adjustments?
I think there's a lot of staying power, Adam. And I think there was this huge story that, the press was running with that, the minute the interest rates go up, people are going to be upside down and it's going to be mayhem. And it never happened, mostly because people pre-qualified for the higher rate right at the beginning of their mortgage. So while it may cost them more and it may mean they're making cuts in other areas of their life, they can still afford their home. So I think, I do think that we have to be calm here. Like, it's just what's happening. People need to just sort themselves out, and they will, as they always do. But it is a little hard on the sellers right now, because they're all, hey, you're showing my house, you're showing it, you're not bringing me any offers. What's going on? And that, that is hard on people. If you really need to sell, it's hard. But if you don't need to sell, you might not come into the arena right now because it's a bit slower.
So we hear that sellers have the staying power. They have the ability to stay patient. They might be getting a little, hey, what's going on here? Why aren't offers coming in? But does the elevated inventory give buyers that negotiating power? And then are they using it? Are they not using it?
Of course it gives them negotiating power. Absolutely it does. But at the end of the day, a deal is only made where a seller will accept what the buyer is willing to pay. So if buyers are running around and firing off these lowball offers, agents are, especially in our group, are instructing sellers to understand the value of their home. And, that's what we see. Don't you think, Patti? Like,
definitely.
I don't think sellers are completely panicking, but of course buyers have negotiating power right now.
They do. But, and again, it depends on the area, because it depends on the area of pricing, because we've seen some properties we're involved in one right now, tied up with a subject to sale of, and we've bumped that person. And we were involved in one last week with the same story where we didn't get it because someone else came in and bumped the person first. So there are buyers out there. They exist, and there are sellers that are realistic about price. They exist. It's just going to, it takes time. We're not used to sitting around waiting. We're very immediate society, but this is how I started in real estate. This is not new to me at all. This is real.
Right.
What we had before was an artificial market. Panic. Let's hurry. Even the way that some of the agents are interacting they still believe that market is there, but they will soon realize they will need to change their style of responding to requests, or they will not be an agent anymore. It's shocking to me right now what we're seeing. And people have this, they're running with this myth that, it's going to be fine in a week. Or it's not. It's going to take some time.
Moving on, with sales to active listing ratios for January at 9.1%. That's pretty low, and it's pretty firmly planted in a buyer's market. In the decade that I've been in real estate, I've never, ever seen it that low. Patti, you can say otherwise. You have the
I
experience
can.
here where you've seen plenty of markets.
Yeah.
But with a sales ratio of 9.1, let's just break that down for a second. That is a 6.7 sales ratio for detached homes, 11% for attached, 10% for apartments. So every segment here seems to be in a buyer's market on average, in aggregate.
On average.
Obviously, when we go into different areas, things can change. But with the sales ratio at 9.1, what needs to change so sales or demand stabilize or rebound?
Well, people need to calm down and remind themselves if they want to move or want to buy, or, like, look at the facts.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, Jen, with you talked about someone saying, oh, I should wait because, trying to time the market. That's pretty difficult. Like,
Yeah.
only one person will be the bottom and then it changes. So, and we talk about how hard it is to find what you want. Really, when you take a buyer out, what they want and what they feel comfortable in, there's only so many of them. So, like you've said this, Jen, it's such a great time. You can negotiate right now with so many people. And if you're looking to buy, wow, get off the fence. That's what my advice is.
Yeah, I mean, Adam, of course, it always starts with, getting your finances in order and like coming up with a goal, speaking to a financial professional, like a mortgage person who's going to let you know what your situation looks like. And just kind of putting your feet in the water, having a conversation with us about what opportunities look like, and the rest almost takes care of itself. But really, the motivation has to come with what Patti just said. Like, the buyer has to decide, I want to move. What am I doing with my life? Because this business we're in is about helping people through transition. And our goal of our team is to help people make great decisions in any market, not the whoop-de-doo fast-paced ones or just these crazy buyers markets. It's all of it and everything in between. But, good advice is kind of what we're offering.
Makes perfect sense. As we are still in the beginning of the year, can you give me a very quick prediction of how we think this year is going to play out?
Well, my prediction is...
What do you think, Patti?
Well, sorry, mine is that we will see some activity probably in the next month and a half, and then we'll probably cool down till September again. That is my prediction.
So a spring market, like an early spring market, or
early
a
spring
longer
market, and then it'll slow again, and then back to the fall.
Yeah, some really big names in real estate have been coming out with some predictions, and my understanding is that they think we are going to return to a more traditional paced market where we see activity in the spring, things slow down in the summer, we see more activity in the fall. That'll be really interesting because, as we all know, we've had very busy summers for years and years and years now. So we'll see if what happens. But yeah, I agree with Patti. I do think that I can just see with the number of phone calls we're having and what's going on is that there's a lot of people preparing to do something, whether it's buying or selling. And I think that's going to happen. And then beyond that, I think that, and those are the people that have the need. So they've established that need. They've established that goal. And that's who is kind of working right now. And that kind of idea that people are just buying and selling because it's a good time and all this kind of stuff doesn't exist.
Nope, too risky.
Doesn't exist.
Wonderful. I think that's a lot of good information for the January market update. If anybody finds this information useful, please share it with a friend, a family member, a colleague. We would love your support. If you have any questions, get in touch with the team. You can find us at pattymartin.com. Jen, Patti, any last comments?
Well, I just want to say, I think Jen's advice was good. Get some advice if you're considering a move either way, and make a good, solid decision that works for you, not just not just for everybody. It's for you, what works. And so back to your point, Jen, get yourself sorted, get your mortgage broker telling you what you can afford, decide what you want to do with the rest of your life. If it's a downsizer, these are things, and we can help. we're happy to help and
Yeah.
sit and have a coffee and talk to you. That's what we do.
Yeah, turn down the noise. The news is one thing, but actually people that are in real estate, in financial services, we are boots on the ground. That's where you need to get your info.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next month.